Hi, my name is Medhat Al-Masri. This is the first of a series of videos about MCP servers. Today's video is an introduction into what MCP servers are and what we can do with them. We will learn how to extend the AI capabilities of Visual Studio Code with a Time MCP server. You can find a companion article to this video at the link below. Let's start by asking the question, what is MCP? MCP stands for Model Context Protocol. It is an open standard developed by Anthropic, the company behind Claude models. It's an open protocol that enables seamless integration between AI apps and agents and your tools and data sources. In order to continue with this video, the prerequisites are that you have Visual Studio Code, and I suggest you update to the latest version. You also must have a GitHub account, and you should add the GitHub Copilot chat extension into your Visual Studio Code. And you also need Docker Desktop because we're going to run a Time MCP server in Docker. To start with, let us launch our Docker Desktop. Here is Docker Desktop running on my computer. I'll minimize this. Next, in a working directory, I will create a folder so that I can create a localized MCP server. So I'll make a directory named Time MCP Server. And let me go into that directory. And in this folder, I will open VS Code. There it is. There's nothing in this folder. It's just empty. A quick inspection of the extensions that I have in my VS Code shows that I do have GitHub Copilot and the GitHub Copilot chat extension. When you install the GitHub Copilot chat extension, you get this icon at the top there. And I want to open up the chat window. So I'll click on Open Chat. Now in this window, we need to enable agent mode, which is this one here. And preferably, you should select one of the Claude models. Although GPT 4.1 works, I prefer using the latest Claude model. So I'm going to use Claude Sonnet 4. When you choose this combination, you'll get this tools icon. If you click on it, it shows you the tools that are installed in your Visual Studio Code. And there are quite a few of them. In fact, there are 20 of them. I'll just click on OK. Let's look at something else. Let's open up our VS Code settings. So I'm clicking on this gear icon at the bottom and I'll choose Settings. And in the filter, I will enter MCP. When I enter MCP, you will see that there are a couple of MCP settings here. And at this time, they are in experimental mode. If you click on Edit in settings.json, it opens up the settings.json file. And one thing you should pay attention to is the fact that chat.mcp.discovery.enabled is set to true, which means that your VS Code discovers MCP. Let us configure the Time MCP server. The question here is, okay, how do we discover these servers? At this time, a suitable place to discover these servers is to go to this site on GitHub. github.com model context protocol /servers. So let me open up a browser and navigate to that site. In here, I will search for the Time server, and it would lead me to this link here. Under reference servers, there is this Time server, and the description is time and time zone conversion capabilities. Basically, we're going to use this MCP server to detect the current time because AI models like GPT-4, GPT 4.1, and so on, they cannot tell you the current time because their knowledge was frozen sometime in the past. So let's click on time here. Next, let's search for an easy way to use it. And an easy way to use it is under configure for Cloud App, we can use the Docker MCP server. Here you get an indication of the name of the Docker image. So let us remember this one. Next, let's set it up in our VS Code. So you can come to the command palette in VS Code, and in here choose mcp:/add server. It displays at the top for me because I just used it recently. So let's choose that. And the next thing it's going to ask us is the type of MCP server to add. We're going to get it from a Docker image. So let's choose this. Docker image install from a Docker image. Now the Docker image is simply the name that we detected when we looked at the place where we were able to discover this particular server, and the name was mcp/time. Hit enter here, and the next thing it says is, do you want to allow this MCP server? I'm going to allow it. Next thing is it asks us for a server ID, and I'm okay with the word time. Now on the screen it asks us, do you want to install this MCP server globally in your Visual Studio Code, or do you want to install it locally in your current workspace? I'm just experimenting here and I don't really want to install it globally, so I'm going to choose workspace available in this workspace, and it runs locally. So hit enter on that. Next you get this pop-up that says, do you trust this MCP server time? And I'm going to say yes, I do trust it. So at this point it created for me a folder called .vs code under my workspace, and in there I got a file called mcp.json. You will notice that it says that this MCP server is running already. I can stop it, I can restart it. I want to restart it. What is actually happening is that in my Docker desktop, it started this Docker image, so we have a container running, and it is the MCP time container. I can start using this. So in the chat window, let me ask, what is the current time? It will detect this MCP server. So it actually says, I'll check the current time for you using the time MCP server. And it's going to call a method in that MCP server called getCurrentTime. So if I click on continue, it's going to execute that method and come back with the result saying the current time is 12:37 a.m. UTC. Now I'm not very good at converting UTC to the time zone that I'm in. I can say, what is it in the Pacific time zone? So here it's saying, get the current time, and I happen to be in Vancouver, Canada, which happens to be in the same time zone as Los Angeles in the United States. So it picked up the right time zone. If I click on continue, it will say, okay, the time in this particular time zone is 5:37. Let me ask it, what is the time in another country or city? So I can say, what is the time in Timbuktu? The city of Timbuktu happens to be in West Africa in a country called Mali, and the capital city of Mali is Bamako. So it detects, yes, that city exists and it is in Africa, Bamako. So if I click on continue, it will tell me that the time in Timbuktu at the moment is 12:39 a.m., just past midnight. Let me tell it to refresh the time in Timbuktu, and it says 12:40 when the last time I checked it was 12:39, so it's able to refresh the time. This is an introduction into MCP servers. I'm planning more videos in the future that get into more interesting things. Thank you for coming this far in the video, and I hope to see you in another video soon. Cheers.